September 15th, 2019, I had my first surgery. I had some intestines removed. I had some appendix taken out. Who are we kidding? The entire appendix was taken out. About 1/3 of my colon was taken out, and 10 centimeters of my small intestine. Where do I go from here? What do I do? How do I get back? We're about 6 weeks post-surgery now. I am slowly getting back to what you could classify as normal life. But where am I really supposed to be going from here? To give you a little bit of background information, I had just started a master's program in school. I had a relatively defined outline of what I wanted to do. And then by the end of July, something felt off. My body started sleeping worse. I started feeling sluggish all the time. Food wasn't digesting properly. I attributed it more so to stress than anything, especially the stress of going into a master's program where so much of it was up in the air and not well controlled. So I didn't really think too much of it. Flash forward to 2 weeks into August, and I'm starting this master's program. But now I feel like absolute garbage. It pretty much didn't matter what I was eating. I was always feeling full. I always felt bloated, and I was going to the bathroom more frequently. It wasn't exactly the same as a normal flare-up was per se, where I felt like throwing up or had loose stools. It was just I was going a lot. And it caused me a little bit more concern than it did back in July. Now, if we continue forward even more to basically the last week of August, it got so bad that I was losing weight. I had lost about 15 pounds in the course of, I think, 10 days, I believe, at this point. And I wasn't able to keep really any food down, so I went to the hospital. This is hospital visit number 1. I've never been hospitalized before. I saw a GI doctor, and he suggested that I had an abscess that needed draining, but that was it. He didn't do any scopes. All I had was a CT scan. But because I was in school, he wanted to allow my own GI doctor to do it, so he discharged me and basically put me on antibiotics with the premise that I would go to see my GI doctor and have it drained then. I went to see my GI doctor about a week later, so we're now into September, and the course of antibiotics had ended. A day later, I felt like garbage again. I was slowly going downhill, and at this point it was a lot worse than it was before. So by Tuesday of the following week, we're now into the second week of September. I left school early and readmitted myself into a hospital, and it basically came out that I needed surgery. I had a fistula, 2 of them actually, from basically the end of the small intestine connecting to the large intestine, and one of the fistulas that was connected to the large intestine was starting to branch its way to go up to the start of the small intestine, or the duodenum. So it was quite the reason for concern. Surgery was performed laparoscopically, so I have 4 little small incisions, but they're not exactly anything too crazy to worry about. We're 6 weeks post-op. I was cleared to exercise again about 2 weeks ago. I started with lighter based training, I guess you could say, where obviously I'm not lifting at the same maximal intensity or volume that I was before, which makes logical sense when you take into consideration that I lost a grand total of, wait for it, drum roll please, 35 pounds. I'm now up 15 pounds, so we are on the road to recovery. We're getting better. Gym training's getting better as well. I haven't really done anything too crazy per se, but what I have noticed is that with the surgery, my ability to control my diaphragm, my hips, and my rib cage are not where it used to be. Before, it used to be kind of automatic. I could just think of the movement that I'm trying to do with my hips, and then they would do it. So for example, in deadlifts, I've been finding that my hips are a lot higher, so I've been taking a lot more of a note on how to control them, if you will. And I've also been doing a lot more, I guess, functional training, if you want to call it that, in terms of stabilizing my core, rotating, getting the diaphragm to move through a space that takes a lot more of an active control and an active awareness for it instead of just kind of doing it. But as for the actual training itself, like I'm still squatting, I'm still benching, I'm still doing some variation of a deadlift. I just didn't do it with the same level of difficulty or intensity the first week. And now that we're in week 2, I'm slowly starting to push the agenda again. I've reintroduced RP8 singles, and it feels good. Psychologically, that's been probably the biggest thing, the most helpful thing, is being able to push it harder at the gym again. With going to the gym being such a large part of my life, it's like this was fantastic. But I'm not going to sit here and lie. Making this video is very difficult because the entire time that I've been talking about my Crohn's journey or talking about my fitness journey, it's always been like one of those, I know what I'm doing, and if you kind of take what I'm saying and do what your GI doctor's saying, you're going to be great. Because like this entire surgery, I felt helpless. I really couldn't do anything. It was just kind of like the disease was doing what it wanted, which sucked, obviously. But if you don't, from my perspective, I don't think I really gave up. I had a very large social support network that helped me, between family, friends, acquaintances that I hadn't even talked to in a while that reached out and were basically asking how I was doing and wanted to come and visit me. And then my best friend Luke, the guy that's in pretty much all the videos that I have either filming or within them with me, he brought me his like portable DVD player in the hospital because I couldn't even watch TV. So like at least there was that for me to do, and he'd come and visit. But at that point, that's kind of neither here nor there. Like I was saying, we're kind of over the hump of all the hard stuff, if you will. It's just a matter of finding out where I want to go from here. So with exercise being kind of in check and not a whole lot really having to change, we kind of pivoted towards nutrition. And that's been kind of a weird area, mostly because foods that didn't bother me before seem to be bothering me, and some, not all. And foods that did bother me before, some of them are not. So, for example, I used to have a very large problem with corn and corn byproducts. With having to follow a diet called a low residue diet for the first 4 weeks after surgery, it kind of meant that I was eating crappier foods per se, like less whole grains, less nutrient dense foods. And those typically tend to have at least some level of cornstarch. And I wasn't having any issues with it. My stomach wasn't bothering me. I wasn't gassy. I wasn't bloated. I wasn't going to the bathroom any with irregularities. So it was very odd to see. And then as I was reintroducing foods that were healthier and were part of my normal diet after this low residue period ended, I started noticing that foods like Hellmann's mayonnaise, which like I understand it's not the best, but it is a cleaner form of mayonnaise per se than Miracle Whip. It bothered my stomach, which is kind of odd. Like it's mostly eggs and vinegar, so stuff like that is it's a little odd. And then even right down to berries, like blueberries are fine, but strawberries seem to bother my stomach if I have more than like 2 or 3 in a sitting. So nutrition is definitely an area that's going to be a little bit more trial and error, and is definitely going to take a little bit of time to figure out what's going on. I'm definitely going to have to be a little bit more apprehensive to just trying random foods and expecting nothing to happen, or thinking that foods that I used to be fine with are always going to be okay with me. So it's going to be a good learning curve. Now, the plan going forward is a little bit less clear in terms of what I'm doing with my future, in terms of what I'm doing with my training, and in terms of where I see myself. So with this master's program, I'm no longer part of it, so I'm not really in school right now. I'm back working full-time at the gym. I've got a fair amount of clients and I'm enjoying it, but I don't know how long I'm going to be doing that. Personal training is fun, but there's not a lot of job security and the hours aren't exactly the best. So where I'm going to be going with that or pivoting to, I don't know at this point in time, so we'll see. But as for training, the goal is always get bigger. Now, I'm going to have to do it in a little bit more controlled manner, but right now, if I can gain pre-surgery weight back by like end of December, mid-December, that would be fantastic. I know strength is going to slowly come back, and that's going to be a lot more of a linear-based curve than weight gain is, but stay along for the ride, ladies and gentlemen. I really hope you do, because I'm going to try to document this entire journey. I didn't do it the first time, and I kind of regret it. So this time we're going all in on this.